Good evening, Europe. Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Marijn, and I am a 27-year-old big Dutch Eurovision fan. And I am now, after 13, not 13, yeah, after 13 years of watching Eurovision and following Eurovision passively since 2013, now actively becoming a member of this community. So in this video, I want to talk about who I am, what I want to do here on this channel, and more specifically, why I want to do this, because I think that is perhaps the most important thing. So yeah, a little bit about myself in context of Eurovision. I started watching Eurovision in 2013, so not that long ago. Well, it is sort of long ago, but you have these people who have these memories of when they were a child, 4 or 5 years old, in front of the TV, that special night, once a year, whatever. I don't have that. I don't. And I don't blame my parents. I don't blame the universe. I don't blame myself. I blame the Dutch broadcaster specifically for that, because my God, what did we send when I was a child? A child. In front of my salad. We sent the Drieërs, the Toppers, Sineke. Who else did we send? Joan Franca. That was like before we kind of knew what we were doing. Did we want to be there? I don't know, but my parents at least thought we're not really gonna watch this. I'm not really sure who the targeted demographic was, but it definitely wasn't me. It definitely wasn't the people around me. So I didn't really grow up with Eurovision. Somewhat unfortunate. Then something happened in 2013, and her name is Anouk. Anouk is a Dutch singer, and she represented the Netherlands in 2013 with her song Birds. And that song really changed the way that we in the Netherlands looked at Eurovision. And I think that is important to note. And I think it is important to note because that's when I started watching Eurovision. That is when my journey as a fan began. That is when my journey started towards me in this moment, filming this video for y'all. What is somewhat unfortunate is that she made some transphobic comments in the recent past. But yeah, that is my first Eurovision experience. I wasn't necessarily that young. I was a teen. I watched Emily de Forest win for Denmark with her song Only Teardrops. I still remember, sort of. This was also an thing that kind of helps me in my trajectory when the Netherlands started really qualifying. We qualified in 2013, 2014, and basically the list goes on. Before that, we didn't really qualify a lot. And afterwards, we really qualified a lot of the times, and it was more so the exception that we did not qualify. So that helps as a fan. Also, a fan of your own country, a fan of music in general. You want your country to do well. And we did. We came in second in 2014, and the entire country was, at least I felt that the entire country was involved in that, so that is honestly great. But yeah, why am I here? So why do I decide to make content now about Eurovision? And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first is that I honestly think that Eurovision is such an important cultural phenomenon throughout our continent, and even beyond that, honestly. Eurovision is being watched in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in parts of Asia. I personally think that Eurovision is too important of a cultural institution to be threatened by anything, and I think that in particular right now it is being threatened by the participation of Israel. I'm going to leave that there for now, but trust that I will make more videos on that. Another important aspect is that I love learning about languages and cultures, and people are like, oh my God, I love learning about languages and cultures. I actually did my bachelor's degree in university on European languages and cultures. It is what I spent my time on learning over 3.5 years. There's reasons why I want to travel to certain places. And I think Eurovision really adds to that. I've been to Eurovision twice. I was supposed to go in 2020 in Rotterdam, in my home country. I didn't because the pandemic. I did go in 2021. And I also went in 2025 in Basel in Switzerland. So that was last year. And they were great experiences. And you see so many different people. You meet so many different kinds of people. But also very importantly, when you look at a performer from a specific country, that you do not know about really that much, or a language that you do not know, or a story that you do not know, you learn so much. And I think that is just a great thing. You learn while you're being entertained. Who does not want to be entertained but also being taught something? And I think looking at this year's Eurovision 2026, I think a really particular thing where I truly learned something new about a culture was Croatia's performance. I think that was great. I think really they, with the paintings of the crosses that told the story of them being like protected from being sold into slavery in the Ottoman Empire as like Catholic Christians, I think that was really interesting. So yeah, I have also planned like holidays because Eurovision sparked an interest in a specific region or a specific country or a specific city. Basel, of course, is the most obvious answer to that, but I've also been to the Baltics, all three of them, because at some point at Eurovision I was like, the Baltics are an interesting bunch of countries that are making such interesting songs. I want to know more about this. And I think that honestly has put me on the trajectory of at some point traveling there. And I have been. And it was amazing. Something else I love and I want to explore also on this channel, and something that I look out for when I'm watching Eurovision, is why do they shoot things in a specific way? Why do they use specific camera angles? Why do they do A, B, or C? What magic tricks are they using to keep us on our toes as viewers? Those are just things that I love. These are also things that I do not have experience with. That pretty much also segues me into the next part of how I want to do this. And the honest answer is I have no idea. Like I said, I bought this tripod to record this video. Honestly, I have no clue. I'm filming this with like a front cam, so I'm constantly seeing myself. There's my cat. Look at my cat. Hi, Mouse. Hi. I think the important thing is that I really care about Eurovision. I love Eurovision. I love the Eurovision community. I love the media that people are making on Eurovision. I love listening to Eurovision music. I love listening to songs that didn't even make it from the national finals to Eurovision. I am honestly such a big fan. I think that really, hopefully, drives me forward um, into getting better with editing because I have no experience. And speaking of the Eurovision community, I think that when we talk about the Eurovision slogan of being united by music, I think the Eurovision fans truly are, most of them, are united by music. The organization, the EBU, not so much. I think they're truly hiding behind a lot of reasons not to do a lot of different things, and that is quite, this is my new mic, and that is quite sad. I truly see the Eurovision community and the EBU on divergent paths, and that to me is quite sad. I think a huge proof of this is that in 2026, our last Eurovision Song Contest, the 70th edition, the 70th anniversary, Eurovision had, I have to look at this because I don't know, 131 million viewers. That sounds like a lot. But if you would compare it to last year, 2025, Eurovision has lost 35 million viewers. To put that into context, that is a country the size of almost Poland. Poland has 38 million people. We have lost almost a Poland-sized community of people who just simply don't want to watch. And there's a big elephant in the room. And it's not this one. The Eurovision we had before, the Eurovision that stood for values, the Eurovision that really came together after Europe was war-torn, was divided, that Eurovision that brought together countries to perform and sing music and learn about each other's cultures and honestly not have to deal with all of this BS, that is what I love and that is what I want to protect. On another note, I know that there are a lot of creators that have stopped making content about Eurovision because they feel very uncomfortable with Israel's presence here in the current climate that we find ourselves in. I understand that. I respect that. I choose to not make the same decision. Of course, I don't really want to make this all about politics and how I see the world. I also really want to delve into the fun things of Eurovision. Like I mentioned before, the music, the artistry beyond that, watching maybe national finals, analyzing what I'm seeing, talk about what I see and talk about that with the people that hopefully watch this. Yeah, I want to make lighthearted videos as well. What about staging? What about the different countries? About national finals? I have some ideas. Um, they're not very concrete. One other thing that I want to talk about is my inspirations, the people that inspire me to do this, because making media about Eurovision isn't necessarily the most original idea in and of itself. There are countless creators that are doing this, and they're doing it in a magnificent way. And I do honestly feel that they have really inspired me a lot to make this step, to buy this tripod, to sit in front of this light, to record this video. I think one of my biggest inspirations for sure was ESC Gabe. Like I said before, I started watching Eurovision in 2013 and I started engaging with fan media as well. I think in that year it wouldn't really have been that long afterwards, I would say. So I grew up with things like Weeby blogs, etc., which have also been a great inspiration. But I was talking about ESC Gabe, who has been my biggest, I would say biggest inspiration, ESC Gabe, in particular because as I started watching Eurovision and started engaging with fan media, at some point he began. He makes content in such a fascinating and interesting way. Like, to me, that really is journalism in and of itself. I want to find my own way because I don't really know where it is heading. For me, the important thing is I think I can do this. I like myself. I have to show myself. I have to show what I feel, what I think, when I want to talk about. Also, what basically has become somewhat of an inspiration. Marco and Gea from the Dingedang, like the Eurovision Songfestival podcast, which is a Dutch Eurovision podcast. All of these people, and Gea and Marco have been on live streams of ESC Gabe. There's sort of a jealousy there where I'm like, I see things that they did in Vienna or in Basel, and I'm like, I want to do this. I want to not necessarily be them, but the happiness that they bring me as a viewer, I want to actively feel that instead of passively sitting on a couch. And Marco and Geye, I think they sometimes have the juice, they have some tea, they have their opinions, they have a lot of insights. They are so professional. The most important thing is that, like these people, I think what I feel with them, they, but also me, we care about Eurovision. We love Eurovision. That's why we are doing this. That's why I'm here. Also, like I said in the beginning, I am Dutch, but I'm, as you can tell, choosing to make this in English. Why? Because my goal is to be critical, but also create a space, and I think it would be nice to include the most people that I can reach. And I think the English language, even though it's not my first language, it's not even my second language, would be the best way to do that. I hope that when you're watching this, that you feel heard, that you feel seen, that you understand who I am, that you want to follow along on this journey, and you are very welcome to do so. I hope that people will subscribe, like, comment. Also, tell me what you want to see next. I am very curious. I want to delve into Eurovision 2026 because that has been a couple of weeks ago. I want to delve, of course, looking forward into Eurovision 2027, perhaps past editions. I'm so sorry. All of that. I hope we will see each other again. I hope to communicate in a way with many of y'all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.